Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Zach, and today we're going to be looking at Ecomi Omi Veve stuff. As per usual, we're going to start off with the price, and then we're also going to be looking at some VeVe NFT drop changes that I think some of the community wants to see, and we've heard from, I believe, Dan talking about, actually I'm not sure if it was Dan or Reese. Reese, I think, was talking about the system of the drops. We're going to get into all of it right now, but first of all, the price, of course, is 0.003219. We're down 7% roughly on a low of 0.003024 and a high of 0.003629, so not a huge range honestly over the past 24 hours, but it is what it is. Realistically though, today I want to be talking about the Batman black and white stuff going on here. Of course, this was released today, and something that Dan spoke about here and something that Reese spoke about in this part of the Clubhouse chat made me think about something. So first of all, I want to talk about, or listen to, Dan talking about the fact that we will be seeing more DC figurines, essentially new DC drops coming soon.
With us a little bit about what you personally are most excited about in the next coming weeks.
Next coming weeks. Next coming weeks is probably, all months. I mean, I'll go out a little bit more long term. I mean, in the next coming weeks, we've got some really cool new categories from the DC range of collectibles. Very beautiful collectibles. So I'm pretty excited about dropping them. They should be out in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, so we've actually gone through this entire Clubhouse chat on the channel already. It should be uploaded by now. I'm actually uploading it as I'm recording this video, ready for once this video is uploaded. Don't worry, I'm confusing myself even talking about it. That being said, there we just have Dan talking about the fact that we will have new categories within DC. Of course, that is exciting as heck. Honestly, Batmobile, let's be real now. Anyway, let's go forward to the other point that I wanted to talk about, which is asked, I think, by Steve Paul, and Reese speaks about essentially the system of drops. I want to go over this, going over my own slight concerns, or at least ideas for, I think, improvement, or things that we need to talk about at least. Let's jump into it.
Is there any plan to introduce a different process or system for drops, such as like a queue, like the NBA Top Shot, or something entirely different to relieve the, I guess, the rush that everybody's going at the same time? And if so, is that going to be sometime soon or down the road? Thank you.
Now, this is a really important question. Reese answered this well, but his answer doesn't necessarily, I wouldn't say it concerns me, but it is making me think about problems that could come up later on that I'm sure the VeVe team have already thought about. There we go, though. Let's let Reese listen. I've had too much coffee. I do apologize.
Short answer, no. The obviously we saw some issues with the system early on, but right now the drop system and the reservation system is on point. It actually works really well. And Dan mentioned earlier that we'll be taking the market offline during the drops just to give it that extra bit of load. But no, the drop days have always been an integral part of the design of VeVe. I know it's frustrating if you really want a collectible and you don't get it, but on the flip side, that's kind of part of the fun. That's part of the challenge of trying to get in and being there at the drop time to obtain those collectibles. So no, there's no planned changes to create a lottery system or anything like that just yet. I personally would be against it for that reason. It's also, from a business, from an app point of view, it helps with app retention as well. I mean, if you want that collectible, you've got to be in the app at the time that it's being released, which continues to bring that excitement to the collectibles and to the app itself. Obviously, people think we're crazy getting out of bed at 1 a.m. to try and get these collectibles, but I don't know about you guys. It's turned me into a child again. I absolutely love it. So no plans to change that drop system yet. We'll continue to scale it out. I think what we're more likely to see, and this has been mentioned a few times, is once we've got a good backlog of assets, thanks to Trevor's hard work, we'll spread the drops out. That they might be at different times, or there might be 2 a week, or things like that once the system is fully rolling, which will help to take some of the load off what we're seeing right now, right? Because at the moment we're seeing people are just trying to buy anything and everything. It's not because they're necessarily a fan of that brand or particularly want that collectible. there is that speculation that holding early collectibles will be more valuable, or they might be able to flip them in the market. But I think that moving forward, once we can spread that load out across multiple drops and different brands and different edition numbers and those kind of things, it will spread that out too. But yeah, fundamentally, drop days are sticking around.
Cool. I do agree that it brings a little more excitement to it. As long as the system can sustain it, I think it's okay to go this way. Thank you.
Absolutely. No, you're very welcome. Yeah, and you're right. You know, we have to ensure that the system can sustain it. If that changes in the future, then sure, we'll revisit things and re-strategize. But you know, now we've got some full-time scalability experts in the background. I think we're pretty confident that we'll be able to maintain that moving forward.
Okay, so actually, even the thing is, so I listened to 2 hours 18 of this, right? Now, my memory of every detail that was said isn't exactly crystal clear, as you can imagine. Trying to remember every question, every answer over 2 hours is basically impossible. And actually, whilst I was listening to Reese there, some of my concerns were actually somewhat answered a little bit, but I still want to go over them because I think that they're important and a good talking point for the community. So what they're speaking about, for one, obviously, there's 2 things I'm thinking about here. There's one, which is the release date / how the drop system is, which of course, it is a case of rushing at one time. Now, obviously, a huge difficulty with this is you essentially the time at which VeVe announces time zones, right? Like, there's a reason, for example, that when Travis Scott was on Fortnite, there was like a concert where Travis Scott was performing within the Fortnite universe live, and they actually did, I think, 3 or 4 versions of this concert. I actually feel a little silly not actually just showing you what I'm talking about, because this is a huge talking point. Now, this itself, I can't remember the figures specifically, and obviously the music's off because it's copyrighted, but there were literally many millions of people who were at this concert during this live event. Now, I believe that this live event generally happened over a 24-hour period, and essentially there were 3 times within that 24-hour period that you could join in. And essentially the reason being was that, say for example, it was at 12 p.m. GMT, which is in the UK, right? That wouldn't work potentially, or even worse than that, say 8 p.m. GMT, right? For people in SEA or just in general in Asia, that was like 4 a.m., 3 a.m. on a school night, right? And that didn't work as well. Obviously, Fortnite has a lot of younger audience. So the basis of this is that with Valorant, I keep saying Valorant, it's because I run a channel called Valorant Hub. With VeVe drops, essentially having one point in basically forever where you can try and buy a collectible, I just truly don't feel like it's sustainable for a long-term larger audience. Now, I'm also trying to feel the fact that realistically, when it comes to collector's items, of course, you do sort of have to go out of your way to be able to take something, or to, be a special part of something. You actually have to essentially, it's not all about convenience, essentially. Some of these things is about being special and being a special part of that journey. Difficulty is, obviously, for access, some people it's 7 p.m., which is a fairly normal time to be awake, but for some people, as Reese said, it's 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and honestly, that just doesn't work for a lot of people. And in my opinion, another huge part of this, of course, is that anyone who just tries to get on VeVe, say, for example, your friend tells you about VeVe and you've never bought something before on VeVe and everything is sold out, well, that's just not an interesting marketplace to go to, and I think that will hurt retention on the app. Now, what I'm saying here, I doubt Ecomi don't already know about. I'm sure they're well ahead of what I'm thinking about already, but I still think it's an important talking point. Essentially, people who are DC fans, people who are Marvel fans, or whoever, whatever IP they're trying to get on the VeVe marketplace, I think limited edition stuff is really important, but I do believe that there's also a market for people just to be able to buy this stuff without having to break their neck, essentially, to try and stay up at the right time or whatever. Now, in fairness here, Reese did say that they will start maybe trying to change around the times a little bit to make it a little bit more accessible, and that is really good. Having said that, when we look at, say, for example, the most recent drop, the Batman Black and White drop, Series 5. Now, if we go through all this, obviously we have some really awesome NFTs here for different Batman. We have Robin, obviously, then we have Batman again, and we have basically a few different types of Batmans. Now, this, of course, is amazing, absolutely incredible, especially if, for example, we get a free update where the Batman can fly or whatever. It's going to be truly amazing. Having said that, as far as matching supply to demand, right, I've done a few of the numbers on here, essentially just adding up how many editions there are altogether, and there are 40,200 editions if we add up all of the editions here together, essentially. 6,800, 3,800, 12,800, etc. All of them added together, again, 40,200. Now, I get that this is meant to be limited edition, but I do also think that there is a way, and not only a way, there is essentially a demand for a lot more than this. When we look at even the viewership on Dark Knight videos on YouTube, for example, you know, 3 years ago, 30 million views, 7 years ago, 50 million views, there is no doubt in my mind that the Batman IP itself, and of course DC itself, has over 100 million fans at the least. And of course, there are only 40,200 editions for this thing. Now, of course, bearing in mind, of course, that we only have 250,000 or roughly 270,000 as my guess users on the platform. So realistically, there's no point necessarily in making too many of these. And also they do want these to be limited edition. But again, for the mainstream audience, this simply isn't going to cut it right now. Having said that, in fairness to Ecomi, of course, they know that they aren't there yet. Realistically, of course, there aren't even a million users on this. So realistically, is there any point in putting millions of figurines on there when literally there'll be too many figurines for how many users are on there? I totally get that, but realistically, I think once we get to that point where we have more marketing, more demand, etc., I think we are going to need to see more additions of all these different IPs that we already have, plus all the IPs that they haven't even announced yet, which we know there's over 100 IPs that we don't even know of right now, which means we're going to need to see more drops more frequently, in my opinion, and they're going to need to be more available, because at the end of the day, people are going to need to, if we want to onboard users onto the ecosystem, they need to be able to enjoy the ecosystem. You know, there's no point. I think there's going to be a huge drop off if essentially they market this to be something that a lot of people can enjoy, when realistically, most people simply won't be able to buy anything, which even Reese said here, I believe, people are literally buying stuff just to have stuff. They're not even necessarily fans at this point of the IPs that they're buying the NFTs of. They're essentially buying it to flip it for allegedly what's coming up later on, which of course I do believe in VeVe. I do believe that VeVe, as they market this more, as the platform is more stable and they can market it more with both earned media, i.e. TikTok creators, Twitch streamers, YouTubers, all of them uploading their NFT content, as well, of course, as they have already said, the new marketing firm, CPMK, I think they are already going to be putting Dave C, probably Reese, probably Trevor onto TV like Bloomberg, CNBC to essentially market the NFTs. When we have all of this marketing coming together, I think we really will need to see so many more drops than we're seeing right now, because realistically, the app simply, I don't think right now at least, offers the mainstream audience what they need. And again, that's not me complaining at Ecomi. Realistically, I understand that, and I've said this before on my channel, so there's no confusion here. I know how early VeVe and Ecomi is on all of this, and I know that they are going a million miles an hour to try and build and improve, and I really commend them for what the team has done. You know, the team is tiny really on the scale of a tech company. I think there's like 30 people on the team, outside of course of producers and stuff. It's incredibly impressive, and of course if you're watching Ecomi, I am incredibly impressed by what's going on here, but I definitely think this is a talking point that needs to be discussed at some point, is how are we going to build this so that essentially this is an app that many millions of people can really truly enjoy. Obviously that is years away, maybe even decades away, but at the end of the day, these are just a handful of the brands we're seeing. Of course, just these handful literally brings many millions of fans, and not all fans are going to be able to stay up until 3 a.m, especially when we're looking at Fortnite NFTs and gaming NFTs where there's such a younger audience. Most of this younger audience aren't going to be able to stay up until 5 o'clock in the morning because they have school or whatever other responsibilities that they have to go to. And then what's the plan? Are we going to have to make these younger people buy from people who don't have to go to school at an extortionate price as people are going to try and flip? We know what's going on here. I do believe that Ecomi are way smarter than what I sound like I'm giving them credit for. I'm trying to give them credit because I am so impressed by them. This is not a Ecomi's in a bad place video at all. I'm just going over what I think is something that needs to be addressed, a hurdle that I definitely think Ecomi is well capable of getting over, but it is a hurdle nonetheless. And I think once we get past this, once essentially there are more editions, of course we will have limited editions, but we also need to see essentially more common editions. That's my main thing here. I want to see more common editions for fans who couldn't stay up until 2 o'clock in the morning. Having said that, let me know what your thoughts are on all of this. Of course, Omi's price is going to vary, especially when we're still not on exchanges. Of course, they have spoken about the fact that they are working on being on more exchanges, but I think a lot of that is also confidential, which is why they haven't been able to speak about it much. But there was so much to go through on this. We're going to have so many videos to go through on this entirely, and I cannot wait. If you're interested, please make sure to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and if you want to be kept happening with me on crypto, on Omi, on Ecomi and VeVe, if you want to look at leaks, etc., I do tweet about a lot of stuff. Recently, I tweeted about about how kind this commenter was. If you see us be Christopher, I do appreciate you. I am new to this, but I'm really enjoying it. If you want to follow me, by all means. But with that being said, have a great day, everyone. I will see you in the next video.